What's up, beautiful people? Hope you're well, you're loving life wherever you are in the world. It's what some call the witching hour right now, but I feel pretty awake. I did just yawn. But in the midst of this, like near full moon, creative, energetic portal, whatever hippie term you want to put in there, that I subscribe to, I was feeling compelled to make a video. And I was like, all right, so what should I make? And then I went and surfed, I ran after, had an awesome session, and then what came to me is I want to make a video about forgiveness. And this is something that's been huge in my life. I think a lot of people understand what it is to have a challenge or a struggle with forgiving someone or forgiving themselves. But it's all linked, I've found, at least for me. So I want to share what's helped me up to this point to release a lot of anger and resentment that I've carried for many years with people, with circumstances, situations, things that I've done myself. But in regards to forgiving someone, whether it's a parent, a friend, a sibling, a family member, a coach, a teacher, fill in the blank, whomever this person is, or people that you've had a challenge with forgiving. And I have a lot of friends that have shared, like grown people that have kids who are still dealing with the inability or a lack of understanding how to forgive their parents for certain things that have happened. A lot of people have been abused. They don't know how to forgive the person that abused them. There's so many different situations we could go into specifically, but I want to try and keep this relatively brief if I can, or just tight, and give you the information that's helped me, and hopefully it helps you. So one of the first things I found is that to forgive another person, you have to forgive yourself. And that might sound kind of counterintuitive because, especially if you feel like you're a victim in a situation or circumstance that you had nothing to do with, then you might wonder, what does forgiving myself have to do with this? Like, I'm not saying that when you forgive yourself, you blame yourself for what happened. And we can get into the whole conversation about law of attraction and agreements and contracts and why maybe we magnetically pull ourselves into certain situations even when we're kids. That gets into some dicey territory for some people, but I'm down to have that conversation. I just don't necessarily want to focus on that right now. But for the time being, the way that forgiving yourself applies into letting go of resentment and anger with other people, I've found, is because there's a piece of me I've found in every single person, and there's a part of them in me. We're all a family. We're all connected in this game of life. And you can look at it from a spiritual perspective or just from a purely biological perspective, that we all share common ancestry and DNA. If you go way, 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 way back to Pangea, or maybe to the fungi that hit the earth and created spores, if you want to look at panspermia. There's so many different ways you can look at how we're all related and how we're all connected. But from an emotional point of view, I see myself in every single person I interact with, even people like tweakers, people that are kind of nuts. I mean, I'm nuts, but nuts in a different way. Even foul people that are doing terrible things. I can empathize to some degree because I know that as much as some people have been an asshole to me in ways I could never imagine being that way to other people, I've been that asshole. I've been an asshole to certain degrees. We've all met an asshole and we've all been an asshole. We all have assholes for the most part. But if you can realize through empathy that everyone's just a child that's grown up, that's all that it is. We're all little kids that, unless you're a kid watching this and you're legit, you're a little person, or a young person, and peace to all my little people too. But we're all basically kids that have grown into what we call adults and have responsibilities. But a lot of us emotionally are still in our childlike states, and that's totally fine. If we can look at each other, though, more as kids and be more patient, be more compassionate, and remember that most people, if not everybody, who's doing what we would call like evil things or dark things or just being a jerk, an asshole, someone who's inconsiderate, a narcissist, most of them, they're doing their best. They're just looking for love. And so if you grow up in a household where people don't show you love, they show you abuse, or the only way that they can love is through pain, is through abuse because their parents did it to them, whatever that cycle of trauma is that led to a person being a jerk, or there's so many different adjectives for this. whatever it is that led to that, it was someone looking for love and they didn't know how to show it, and they put a lens, a filter of darkness upon it. And so when I interact with someone who's unaware, maybe they're aware that they're lashing out at me or they're attacking me, whether physically or verbally, whatever it is, if I can look at them with compassion and understand that I've been that person, and to some degree, I've been a jerk, I've been triggered, I've projected, I've gaslit people, sometimes mostly unknowingly, but the ego can get so delicate and it gets into this fight or flight survival mode where it will do anything to win, anything to come out on top in a situation, an argument, to feel like it's validated. And so if you're lacking worth, if you're lacking true love and confidence in yourself, you're more apt to be an asshole. You're more apt to project onto other people. You're more apt to attack people, to blame them for things. So this is a good lesson for anyone who's doing this to other people. It's been a big lesson for me, is that when we're triggered, and when we're projecting our inner turmoil towards other people, that's a great opportunity to go within and say, what is it that I'm holding on to that I haven't let go of? What is it that mom did, that dad did, the priest did, the coach did, the teacher did, someone I looked up to? What was the time that I felt abandoned, that I felt unloved? And start giving ourselves the love that we know we always deserved, but we just didn't see it reflected from other people. And if you can start to consistently give yourself that unconditional love that you deserve, you're not going to need it from other people. You're still going to get it. We're all going to attract those that we need in our lives once we get into alignment with who we really are. But you'll see that you're not dependent upon anyone else's love or attention for you to know that you are worthy, you are validated in your beingness, in your existence, that you're worthy of being here. You have a purpose to explore, to create whatever you want to make that purpose. It's yours to do. You have free will. And so the more and more that I remind myself of this, that I embody this love, and I forgive myself for all the times that I was an asshole to everyone else, I can then see that forgiveness like a circuit in other people that are doing the same thing that I've done, or maybe am still doing that I'm unaware of. And I don't need to make it personal. That's one of the 4 agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz. If you haven't read the 4 agreements, highly recommend it. Amazing book. One of the agreements, if I'm not mistaken, is don't take things personally. And I go back to that all the time. I talk about it with all my friends. I give that book around to, I don't know how many copies of that book I bought and gifted to people, but it's really short and easy. But most of the time, if not every time, someone is doing something violent or negative towards you in some capacity, shape, or form, it's because they're scared, they're insecure, they're lashing out from their own childhood traumas and stories and weird belief systems that they're carrying. And so you don't need to absorb that. Now, I still take stock in what my friends say. If people that I love and trust tell me something that I don't agree with, I'm at least going to examine it and make sure that I'm responding instead of reacting. I want to digest what they said, feel it out, be like, maybe I was coming off aggressively, maybe I was passive aggressive, maybe I wasn't as honest as I should have been about something that I thought I was, and it was doublespeak. There's so many different opportunities in life to respond instead of react. We have the ability to respond. That's what responsibility is as you become more in tune with who you are. So I'm not perfect. I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm still figuring it out. It doesn't stop. But I just want to share this with you, that if you're ever dealing with a story that's going on in your head, something I recommend is going into your heart space, where I think it's like 40 million neurons. There's neurons in the heart. This is more of a recent discovery. Maybe it started in the 90s, but it's now known that we have neurons in the heart, just like in our brain. And we can start to have a coherence between our brain and our heart. And you can do this by activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And a lot of people have talked about it. Greg Braden is a good example about taking in an inhale through the nose and then exhaling longer than you inhale, because it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. You're not in fight or flight where you're like hyperventilating. It's like quick in and out. But you're taking longer exhales than inhales. Lets you calm down, relax, especially if you're in a triggered state. This is huge. Do that as many times as you need, at least 3 times I recommend. Let your cortisol drop, chill out, and reflect on the way that you're acting or that someone else is acting, and go into a place from your heart with love. And look at them with love. Maybe look at them like they're just a little baby and they need some love. That doesn't mean that you need to keep them in your life now. It's totally okay, and in fact, I recommend it, that if someone's being hostile or violent or abusive or aggressive, that you put a strong boundary of communication or proximity between you and them, but you can still love them. And you let them know, this is a consequence of the way you're acting. You're not allowed to interact with me anymore. I love you, but fuck you, is one of my favorite mantras. I love you, but fuck you. I don't actually say that to people. I think it in my head, but I'll be like, I love you, and I'm ceasing all communication or interaction the best of my ability. I know that can be challenging if you work with someone or if it's a family member, but do your best and know that you are doing a service to yourself if you can stop interacting with people that are unkind. Because some people, they think they deserve negativity to the extent that they'll actually put themselves in harm's way because they don't feel worthy of love. They're like that. There's a lot of people in abusive relationships, and it takes 2 to be a victim. You have to agree to step into that and to keep going home to that or inviting it into your house. A lot of people need to hear this. I was dropping in with a really good homegirl of mine last night. She had her windshield broken. This dude, he dislocated one of her ribs. Like, the story kept going. When he broke her windshield, I was like, well, I mean, that's horrible. We need to break up with him. Thank God he didn't hurt you. She's like, well, I'm still dealing with this other injury. He has been abusing me. It's like, I hope, and I had to have a long drop in with her. I felt compelled to just be like, you're amazing. Like, I love you. Why would you put up with this? And she was very self-aware. She's like, my mom died. I know I'm sharing a lot, but I'm not going to say her name, but I hope she'd be okay with me sharing this. But actually, before I release this, I'm going to ask her if I can release this video, giving her as an example, even though I didn't say her name. I still want to be respectful, but it was huge. It just hit me so hard about the amount of trauma she's been carrying, that she felt like being with someone that would treat her that way was what she deserved. And that's so sad. It's not bad. It's not invalid. You need that experience. I've needed those experiences. We all need that experience in our life to really like hit some sort of rock bottom with people or circumstances, to be like, wow, I thought I didn't want to touch this stove again and again and again, but my skin is melting off my hand. I think I got the message now. But you could tell someone this all day. You could fucking shout in their ear until their ears are bleeding, but if they don't keep touching that stove long enough to really get burned, they're not going to understand the consequences of their actions. So sometimes you got to walk the walk, and talking's not going to do it. So if you're going, again, I know maybe I'm turning in circles right now and being redundant, I apologize, but I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. If you're dealing with a story that you're carrying with someone that maybe was or is dear or important to you, or a pivotal figure in your life and has created trauma, if you're still unable to forgive them, I would start by going within and saying, I forgive myself for that experience. I forgive me. And if I were in their shoes, if I was the one that had done what they did, whether it was a crime, whatever it was, whatever transgression that they committed, I would want to be forgiven. If I had come to a place of accountability and acknowledged it and felt sorry, I would want to be forgiven. And there are going to be a lot of people that will never take accountability for what they've done. And even then, I give them forgiveness. As best as I can, I love them and I forgive them. I love them unconditionally, because I know that in the same way, a child who might do something like, break something, or say something really mean to you because they're just learning how to talk and they don't really understand. Kids do crazy shit. I did crazy shit when I was like just a little kid. I punched a couple people like when I was like 5. I didn't understand the consequences of what I was doing. And so more and more, I've been looking at adults that way. They can drive. They can get a job. They can pay taxes. They can procreate. They can do all this legally. And yet they still have the mind of a toddler. And so I can look at them and say, you know what? You might look like a grown human being, but you're acting like a child, and I forgive you because you obviously don't understand what you're doing, and you're acting from a place of fear, anxiety, and lack of love, but you want love. We all just want to be loved. So I'm sending love your way. I'm sending love to myself on a daily basis as best I can, unconditionally, make it consistent, meditate, start my day with gratitude. That's been helping me stay on the level. And forgive myself and everyone else that I've had some type of negative, challenging interaction with. All right, more content to come. Peace and love.